A single billionaire dad was spending Christmas alone, until he sees a poor mom counting coins with her daughter, and what he does changes everything. Christmas Eve in Boston was cold and quiet. The streets glistened with colorful lights hanging from the lampposts, but inside the small diner where Michael Turner was dining alone, the atmosphere was almost empty. Only 3 tables occupied. The place was simple, with wooden chairs and red checkered tablecloths. Nothing fancy. Perfect for someone who didn't want to be noticed. Michael was 39 years old, with a fortune most people would never see in a lifetime. But sitting there in that corner by the window, wearing dark jeans and a plain grey sweater, he looked like just another guy. Just another lonely man trying to survive Christmas without thinking too much about the meaning of the holiday. He cut his steak slowly, chewing without haste. He had no reason to rush. He had nowhere to go. No one was waiting. The silence around him felt heavy. It wasn't the comfortable kind. It was the one that squeezes your chest, that makes you look at your plate and realize you're having dinner alone on Christmas Eve, while the whole world celebrates with family. That's when the door opened. A woman walked in, pulling a small girl by the hand. Both were wearing coats too thin for the cold, looking a little faded. The woman must have been about 29, her face tired but pretty, her brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. The girl was small, blonde with light blue eyes, and looked at everything with pure curiosity. Michael stopped eating without realizing it. His eyes followed the two to the counter. The woman opened her old purse and started pulling out coins, one by one. She put them in the palm of her hand, counted them softly, biting her lower lip. The little girl stood on her tiptoes, trying to see the menu board on the wall. "Mommy, are we going to eat here?" The child's voice came out softly, full of hope. The mother didn't answer right away. She kept counting the coins, gathering a few more from the bottom of her purse. Michael saw her close her eyes for a second, doing mental math. When she opened them, she forced a sad smile. "Only if we have enough money, sweetie." Those words hit Michael like a punch to the stomach. He looked at his own plate, at the expensive bottle of wine he hadn't even touched, at the empty surroundings. Suddenly everything felt wrong. He was there, with money to spare, alone by choice, while that mother desperately counted coins to feed her daughter on Christmas Eve. He couldn't just sit and watch. Michael wiped his mouth with his napkin, took a deep breath, and stood up. He walked slowly to the counter, not wanting to startle them. The woman was still facing away. The little girl was the first to notice. She turned her blonde head and looked at him with those enormous eyes. "Excuse me," Michael said softly, in the gentlest tone possible. The mother spun around quickly, surprised. She instinctively pulled her daughter closer. Michael raised his hands slightly, showing he wasn't a threat. "I'm sorry to intrude, but would you two like to join me for dinner?" The woman blinked several times. She looked at him as if she wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. What?" "I'm having dinner alone over there." He pointed discreetly to his table. "And it's Christmas Eve. No one should have dinner alone on Christmas, right?" She opened her mouth to answer, but no sound came out. Her eyes went from the coins in her hand to his face, then back again, as if trying to understand if it was real. "I can't accept, She shook her head, the red blush of embarrassment rising. "Thank you, but—" "Mommy, please!" The little girl tugged at her mother's sleeve. Her eyes sparkled. "He looks nice." Michael smiled. It wasn't a smile of pity, it was genuine. "I promise I'm not crazy," he said, crouching down to the girl's height. "What's your name?" "Lily," she answered excitedly. "And this is my mom, Avery." Avery. The name suited that tired but beautiful face. "Nice to meet you, Lily and Avery. I'm Michael." He stood up, keeping his voice calm. "Look, I know it seems strange, but I ordered too much food. And honestly, it would be nice to have company. You'd be doing me a favor." Avery hesitated. Michael saw the conflict. She looked at her daughter, then at the coins, then back at him. Pride versus necessity, distrust versus exhaustion. "Please, Mommy," Lily whispered, squeezing her hand. Avery closed her eyes for an instant. When she opened them, gratitude and shame were mixed together. "Okay, but thank you." "Truly?" Michael nodded as if it were no big deal and motioned for them to follow. They walked back to the table, and he pulled out 2 chairs. He helped Lily climb up, waited for Avery to sit down before returning to his own seat. Automatic gestures. The waiter appeared with menus, but Michael waved him away. "The daily special for them, please. And orange juice for the young lady." "I want spaghetti," Lily announced excitedly. Michael smiled. "Spaghetti with meatballs, then." He looked at Avery. "And for you?" she murmured a simple request. When the waiter left, that strange silence hung in the air. It was Lily who broke it. "Did you come to Christmas alone?" she asked, tilting her head with total innocence. Michael gave a low laugh. "I did. And you?" "I came with Mommy," she pointed proudly. "We were going to eat and then look at the Christmas lights." "That sounds fun," Michael replied, genuinely interested. "Do you like Christmas?" "I love it." Her little eyes sparkled. "I made a drawing of Santa Claus at school. The teacher said it was beautiful. Do you want to see?" Before Avery could speak, Lily had already pulled a crumpled sheet from her backpack. The drawing was colorful, a little crooked, but made with care. Michael took it as if it were valuable. "It's very good. You have talent, Lily." "Thank you," she beamed. Avery watched silently, but Michael noticed she had relaxed. Her shoulders dropped. Her hands stopped clutching the napkin. She even risked a half smile when Lily started talking non-stop about school, the teacher, classmates, and the doll she wanted for Christmas. But maybe Santa won't be able to bring it, because he has so many kids. The steaming food arrived. Lily attacked the spaghetti with gusto. Michael noticed she was very hungry. Avery ate slowly, still feeling awkward. "What about you, Avery?" Michael asked. "What do you do for work?" She wiped her mouth before answering. "I work at a department store. Nothing too special." "Every job is special when you do it to take care of someone," he said, glancing at Lily. Avery was quiet. Then she nodded slowly, as if no one had ever said that to her before. The conversation flowed after that. Michael asked simple questions. Lily dominated the talk, telling stories, showing drawings, laughing. Avery started to loosen up, genuinely smiling, even laughing softly. Michael didn't look at his phone once. He didn't check the time. He just remained present, truly listening in a way he hadn't in a long time. When they finished, Lily was already yawning. Avery looked at the clock and her eyes widened. "Oh my, we stayed too long. I'm sorry." "You don't need to apologize," Michael said, signaling the waiter. Avery saw him reach for his wallet and tried to protest. "No, let me pay for my part, please." "It's already taken care of," he lied casually, smiling easily. "Relax, it was my pleasure. I should be thanking you for the company." She flushed, speechless. As they stood up, Lily ran and hugged his leg. "Thank you, Mr. Mike." The nickname caught him by surprise. Michael bent down and lightly ruffled her blonde hair. "You're welcome, Lily. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas," she replied, beaming. Avery quickly squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with more than just gratitude. "Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, you have no idea how much this meant." "The pleasure was mine," he repeated, and it was true. Michael stood at the door, watching the two disappear into the cold night. Lily skipped, holding her mother's hand, her little backpack swinging. Avery looked back once before turning the corner. He waved. She waved back. When they were gone, he returned and sat down. He looked at the empty table, the chairs they had occupied, the crumpled napkin Lily had used. Something inside him had shifted. He couldn't explain what, but he felt it. In his chest, in that place that had been empty for so long. That hadn't just been a dinner. It had been the beginning of something. He didn't know what yet, but he was sure he would find out. Michael got into his car and closed the door slowly. The muffled sound of traffic outside seemed distant. He sat there for a moment, his hands on the steering wheel, looking at the dashboard without really seeing anything. The restaurant receded further in the rearview mirror, but the feeling of that dinner was still clinging to him. He sighed deeply and pulled his wallet from his pocket. He opened it slowly, past the cards, past the folded bills, until he reached the small compartment where he kept photos. There was only one, a single photo, already a little worn from being touched so often. Emma, his daughter, 5 years old, the same age as Lily. In the picture, Emma smiled that wide, gap-toothed grin, her light blonde hair falling over her blue eyes. She was holding an ice cream and looking at the camera as if it were the best day of her life. Michael remembered that day. He remembered every second. He ran his thumb over the photo carefully, as if he could feel her presence just by touching it. Emma lived in another state now, with her mother and with her stepfather. Michael swallowed hard. How many Christmases had he already missed? How many holidays, how many birthdays, how many bedtimes? He had stopped counting because it hurt too much. Each passing date without her was a wound that didn't heal properly. He put the photo back in his wallet and picked up his cell phone. He stared at the screen for a while, his finger hovering over her name. Rebecca, his ex-wife, Emma's mother, the person who decided he was no longer part of that family. He took a deep breath and called. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Michael waited, his heart tightening with each ring. 4, 5, voicemail. His own automatic voice echoed in his ear. He hung up before it finished. He tried again. This time it barely rang. Went straight to voicemail. He tossed the phone onto the passenger seat and ran his hands over his face. Outside, the Christmas lights twinkled on the lampposts. In the shop windows, on the decorated trees, all bright, all festive. But inside the car, alone, he had never felt so empty. He stayed there longer than he should have, just staring into space. Finally, he started the car and drove away. The next morning arrived cold and grey. Michael woke up early, but not because he had slept well. He had spent the entire night waking up, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Emma, about Lily, about Avery, about how life had a way of putting things right in front of you just to show you what you no longer had. He got up, made coffee, and sat at the empty kitchen table. He picked up his wallet again and took out the photo. Emma looked at him with that innocent, lively smile. He felt his chest tighten again. He looked at the phone on the table. He hesitated. Then he picked it up and dialed. This time, someone answered. "Hello?" Rebecca's voice was cold. It always was. "Hi, Rebecca, it's me. I wanted to talk to Emma." Silence on the other end, a heavy silence, full of judgment. "She's getting ready. We're leaving for a trip today." "I know, but I just wanted to wish her a Merry Christmas. I couldn't get through yesterday." Another silence. "Fine. Hold on." He heard her voice fading, calling Emma. He heard little footsteps running, a door opening. And then, "Hi, Daddy!" Emma's voice burst into his ear, excited, full of pure joy. Michael felt his eyes sting instantly. He blinked quickly, trying to hold it back. "Hi, Princess." His voice came out a bit choked, but he tried to hide it. "Belated Merry Christmas. Daddy misses you very much." "I miss you too, Daddy," she replied quickly, with that childlike sincerity that hurts because it's true. "Did you see the snow there?" "I did. It's very pretty." He smiled, even though he knew she couldn't see him. "How was your Christmas?" "It was great. I got a new doll and Mark gave me a giant puzzle." Her excitement was genuine. Mark, the stepfather. Michael gripped the phone tighter but kept his tone light. "That's awesome, sweetie. I bet you'll put it together super fast." "I will. And guess what, Daddy? Today I'm going on a trip with my family. We're going to the mountains to see more snow." The word hit him like a slap in the face. My family. Not us. Not Mommy and I, but my family. A family that no longer included him. A family where he was just the voice on the phone. The dad who called once in a while. The man who lived far away. Michael closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "That's amazing, Princess." He struggled to sound excited. "Have lots of fun, okay? And be careful." "Okay, Daddy. I'll take a picture of the snow for you." "I'd love to see it." He felt his throat tighten. "Emma, Daddy loves you very much, okay?" "I love you too, Daddy." "Goodbye for now, Princess." "Bye." The call was cut off. Rebecca didn't even come back to say goodbye, just the silence on the other end. The beep indicating the call had ended. Michael held the phone to his ear for a few more seconds, as if he could still hear her voice. Then he slowly lowered his arm and placed the phone on the table. He took a deep breath. Once, twice, trying not to break down right there. He looked again at the photo of Emma in his hand, that wide, innocent smile. Then he remembered another girl, another little blonde with light eyes. Lily, excitedly bouncing in the diner. Lily, proudly showing her drawings. Lily, hugging his leg and calling him Mr. Mike. Two girls, the same age, blonde hair, light eyes. One he barely got to see. The other appeared out of nowhere in his life on a Christmas night. Two completely different realities. And he, Michael Turner, a billionaire who could have anything in the world, was in the middle of this enormous void, unsure of what to do with it. He put the photo back in his wallet, picked up the cup of coffee that had already gone cold, and walked to the window. Outside, the city went on. People were leaving their homes, taking their children to play in the snow, carrying presents, laughing. Life continued as if nothing had changed. But for him, everything seemed different. As if that dinner at the restaurant, that mother counting coins, that little girl with sparkling eyes, had stirred something inside him that had been dormant for a long time. He didn't know what it was yet, but he knew he couldn't stop thinking about it, and he knew too that he didn't want to stop. The alarm clock went off too early. Avery opened her eyes while it was still dark, her body heavy with a fatigue that seemed never to lift. She had slept poorly, her head filled with bills, worries, and, strangely, memories of that man in the restaurant. Michael. His gentle manner, his sincere smile, the way he had looked at Lily with genuine attention. She shook her head, trying to ward off the thoughts. She didn't have time for this. She didn't have time for anything but surviving another day. She got up slowly, her cold feet touching the frigid floor, and went to the small room where Lily slept. The girl was wrapped in the thin blanket, her blonde hair spread on the pillow, sleeping with that peace only a child possesses. She watched for a moment, her chest tight with a mix of love and guilt, then she lightly touched her shoulder. "Lily, sweetie, wake up. We have to go." The girl mumbled, turned over. "It's early, Mommy." "I know, my love, but Mommy needs to work. Come on, get up." Lily slowly opened her blue eyes, still sleepy, but obeyed without complaining. She had already learned that when her mother said they had to go, there was no arguing. Avery helped her get dressed, comb her hair, and put on the old sneakers that were already getting tight. She needed to buy a new pair soon. One more thing on the endless list of things she didn't have money for. They ate something quick, almost in silence. Dry toast with a little jam, cheap boxed juice. Lily was still yawning as she chewed. "I'm coming with you again today, right, Mommy?" "Yes, sweetie, you are." Avery forced a smile. "But you need to be very quiet, okay? Just like last time." "Okay." Lily nodded seriously, as if she understood the gravity of the situation. "I won't make any noise." Avery felt her heart ache. A 5-year-old child shouldn't have to worry about being invisible. They left the house before the sun had even risen. The cold bit at her face, and Avery pulled her thin coat closer. She held Lily's small hand tightly, more to calm herself than anything else. The bus ride was long and tiring. The bus was full of people heading to work, everyone looking exhausted. Lily dozed, leaning against her mother's shoulder. Avery looked out the foggy window, watching the city slowly wake up. Stores opening, people rushing, traffic thickening, everyone in the same hurried rush. When they arrived at the store, the movement had already started. It was one of those big, cheap department stores, full of people looking for sales, overflowing shelves, loud music playing over the speakers. The kind of place that tires you out just by walking in. Avery crossed the entrance with Lily by the hand. The girl wore her small backpack, filled with crayons and sheets of paper, on her back. Some co-workers looked over and gave sympathetic little smiles. Others pretended not to see. She knew it bothered them, but she had no choice. She'd barely hung her purse in the locker room when the manager appeared. "Kid again, Collins." His voice was dry, impatient. He was about 50, with a protruding belly, looking like he was perpetually annoyed. Avery turned, trying to remain calm. I don't have anyone to leave her with today. You always don't have anyone to leave her with. He crossed his arms, looking at Lily as if she were a problem. This isn't a daycare, Collins. It's a workplace. I know that. Avery took a deep breath, swallowing her pride. But she won't be in the way, I promise. The manager was silent for a few seconds, his gaze critical. Lily hid behind her mother's leg, very still. She stays in a corner. He pointed with his finger. No noise, no touching anything, no bothering customers. If she bothers anyone, you lose the day's pay. Do you understand? Avery felt the humiliation burn her face, but swallowed hard and nodded. Understood. Thank you. He left without responding. Avery let out the breath she had been holding. She waited for him to disappear before crouching down to Lily's height. She held her daughter's small face in her hands. You'll stay in that little corner, okay? She pointed to a cramped space near the stockroom, where there was a plastic stool. Take your crayons and paper. Draw a lot. If you need me, call me softly. But only if it's important. Understood? Understood, Mommy. Lily nodded very seriously. I'll be quiet. Avery kissed her forehead hard, trying to convey all her love in that gesture. Then she stood up, put on her store apron, tied back her hair, and headed out to the floor. The day was long, very long. Avery spent hours on her feet, assisting hurried, rude, impatient customers. People complaining about prices as if she had control over it. People returning products for no reason. People cursing because the line was long. She smiled, apologized for things that weren't her fault. Solved what she could, swallowed what she couldn't. Her legs ached. Her back ached. Her feet felt like they were on fire. But she kept going, because she had to. Between one customer and the next, she would quickly glance at the corner where Lily was. The girl sat there quietly on the stool, her little legs swinging in the air, drawing on the crumpled paper. Sometimes she looked at her mother and gave a little smile. Avery smiled back, her heart aching with guilt and love at the same time. That was no life for a 5-year-old. To spend hours in a cramped corner, in silence, just so her mother wouldn't lose her job. But what else could she do? She had no alternative. When she finally managed to get a break, Avery walked to the locker room with trembling legs. She grabbed her purse and sat down on the cold metal bench. She opened her wallet slowly, a few folded bills, some coins at the bottom. She started counting mentally, doing the calculations she did every day. Food for the rest of the week. Bus fare. The electricity bill due in a few days. Something for Lily. Even if it was just a different snack. There was no luxury. There was no fat to trim. It was always on the edge, always tight, always counting penny by penny. Avery closed her wallet and leaned her head against the cold wall, too tired even to cry. She just wished things were a little easier. Just a little. But it was what it was. So she stood up, washed her face, and went back to the floor. The rest of the day dragged on. More rude customers, more checkouts, more hours on her feet. When it was finally time to leave, Avery felt her legs almost give way. Lily already had her small backpack on her back, holding the drawings she had made. Ready, my love. All ready, Mommy. They left the store hand in hand. The cold outside was biting, but at least work was over. Avery pulled Lily closer, and they started walking toward the bus stop. That's when Lily pulled her hand. Mommy, look! Look at the lights! Avery looked. They were passing by the park, where the Christmas lights were still on. Small white lights wrapped around the trees, shining softly in the darkness. It was beautiful. Do you want to take a quick look? Avery asked, tired but wanting to see her daughter happy. Yes. They slowly entered the park. Lily pointed at the lights, the nativity scene set up in the center, the inflatable Santa Claus swaying in the wind. Avery just watched, trying to absorb some of that joy. That's when Lily suddenly stopped. Mr. Mike! Avery looked in the direction her daughter was pointing, and there he was, Michael, sitting alone on a bench, his hands in his coat pockets, watching the snow that was beginning to fall lightly. Before Avery could say anything, Lily had let go of her hand and started running. Mr. Meek! Michael turned his head, surprised. When he saw the girl running towards him, his face lit up completely. He opened his arms and Lily practically threw herself at him, hugging him tightly. "Lily!" He laughed, a genuine laugh, hugging the girl back and lifting her off the ground. What a nice surprise. Avery approached slowly and a little shy. She didn't expect to find him there. She didn't expect the strange jump her heart gave. "Hi," she said softly, feeling awkward. Michael looked at her, still holding Lily in his lap, and smiled. "Hi, Avery. It's good to see you two." He motioned to the bench. "Sit down, please." Avery hesitated for only a second before sitting down, her body grateful for the rest. Michael placed Lily back on the ground, and the girl immediately started showing her drawings. "Look, Mr. Mike, I made a lot. This one is you." She pointed proudly to a drawing of a smiling stick figure. "That's me." Michael took the paper carefully. "It's perfect. You are an artist, Lily." The girl smiled radiantly and ran off to play in the snow, but without going far, Michael turned to Avery, and his smile became softer, more concerned. "How was your day?" The question was simple, but there was something in the way he asked that made Avery feel he truly wanted to know. She hesitated. She thought about lying, but she was too tired to pretend. "It was tough," she sighed, looking at her own hands. "The job is complicated. Some days I'm on my feet all day, dealing with rude people, and it feels like I won't be able to handle it, like I'm going to collapse right there." Michael nodded slowly, without judgment, just listening. "It must be very hard to do everything alone." "It is," Avery felt her voice falter. "But there's no other way, you know. It's just me and her. It's always been that way. Her father left before she was born, so it's just me, and the money." She gave a humorless laugh. "The money barely covers the basics. We get by. But some days I wonder how long I can keep everything together." The words came out before she could stop them. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was because he seemed to genuinely care. Maybe it was because it had been a long time since anyone had truly asked how she was. Michael was quiet for a moment, watching the snow fall. Lily was nearby, making a snowball, humming. "I understand the feeling of being alone," he finally said, his voice low. "Not in the same way you do, but I understand the emptiness." Avery looked at him, curious. "You..." She almost laughed, but realized he was serious. "But you seem like you have everything figured out." "I seem like it, right?" He gave a sad smile. "On the outside, maybe. Nice clothes, money in the bank. But inside, I feel completely empty. I have a daughter, Emma. She's 5 years old, the same age as Lily. But she lives far away, in another state, with her mother and stepfather. I barely get to see her. I barely get to be a real father." His voice was heavy with pain. "Yesterday I called her," he continued, "to wish her a Merry Christmas, and she said, all excited, that she was going on a trip with her family. Her family. As if I was no longer a part of it. As if I was just a stranger who calls once in a while." His voice cracked at the end. "I'm so sorry," Avery said sincerely. "That must hurt a lot." "It does," he nodded. "And the worst part is, I have money. Resources. Everything most people think solves problems. But it doesn't solve this. It doesn't solve the distance. It doesn't solve the longing. It doesn't make me feel any less alone. Money can't buy that." They were silent for a while, a comfortable silence and where words weren't necessary. Lily ran back, all wet with snow, showing off the snowball she had made. "Look, Mr. Mike. Look, Mommy." They both smiled. Michael took the cold snowball carefully as if it were something precious. "It's perfect, Lily. The best one I've ever seen." The girl smiled radiantly and ran off again. "Thank you," Avery said softly, "for listening, for being here, for not judging." "Thank you," Michael replied, meeting her eyes, "for letting me be a part of this, for making me feel less alone." When they finally stood up to leave, it was already dark. Lily hugged Michael tightly, and he returned the affection. Avery squeezed his hand, and this time the gesture lasted a little longer. It wasn't just gratitude anymore. It was something deeper, a connection, a mutual understanding between two people who were trying to survive loneliness. And as they walked back to the bus stop, Lily didn't stop talking about Mr. Mike, about how nice he was, about how he liked her drawings. Avery smiled, but inside her head didn't stop. She thought about how she would pay the bills, how she would keep everything running for another month, how she would continue to be strong when she herself was broken. But she also thought about him, about that man who seemed to have everything but felt as lonely as she did, about that man who looked at Lily as if he saw his own daughter, about that man who truly listened to her. And for the first time in a long time, Avery didn't feel completely alone in the world. She had someone who understood, and that made all the difference. Michael woke up that morning with a fixed idea in his head. He had spent the last few days thinking about Avery and Lily, about the way they walked through the square after work, always tired but always stopping to look at the lights, about the way Lily pointed at the decorations, her eyes sparkling with enchantment, about the way Avery smiled at her daughter, even when her own face showed exhaustion. He wanted to do something simple, but that meant something. He left the house before noon and went to the city center. He went into a small neighborhood toy store, one of those with cramped shelves and colorful boxes. He walked slowly through the aisles, looking for something specific. That's when he saw it. A simple rag doll with brown hair and a little red dress. Nothing sophisticated, nothing expensive. But there was something special about it, something that immediately made Michael think of Lily. He picked up the doll and kept looking. In the accessories section, he found what he needed: a delicate headband with small embedded lights. When you pressed the little button on the side, the lights would turn on with a soft, magical glow. Perfect. He paid for everything and left the store with a paper bag in his hands and a strange feeling in his chest. Nervousness mixed with something he hadn't felt in a long time. Expectation, a desire to see her reaction, to make someone genuinely smile. He spent the rest of the afternoon in his apartment, trying to work but unable to concentrate. He kept looking at the clock, waiting for the right time. When the sun began to set and the sky took on that late afternoon orange hue, Michael grabbed the bag with the gifts and went to the park. The big Christmas tree in the center was fully lit, decorated with red and gold balls, with a bright star on top. The white lights wrapped around the branches twinkled softly. Around it, other smaller decorations completed the scene. It was beautiful, welcoming. Michael sat on a bench near the tree, the bag beside him, and waited. It didn't take long. He saw the two appear at the park entrance. Avery walked slowly, her old purse slung over her shoulder, her face tired but trying to smile. Lily skipped beside her, pointing at the lights, talking excitedly about something. Michael felt his chest tighten in a good way. He slowly stood up, picking up the bag. It was Lily who saw him first. The girl suddenly stopped, her eyes widening. Then, with a shout that echoed through the entire park, "Mr. Mike!" She let go of her mother's hand and ran with all the strength of her short legs, her blonde hair flying behind her. Michael quickly knelt down, opened his arms, and she threw herself into him so hard she almost knocked him over. "Hi, Lily," he laughed, hugging the girl tightly. "It's so good to see you." Avery approached more slowly, surprised but smiling, that shy smile Michael was starting to recognize. "Hi, again," she gave a little laugh. "We're becoming park neighbors." "It seems so." Michael smiled back, still holding Lily, who wouldn't let go. "Actually, I was waiting for you." Avery blinked, confused. "Waiting?" "Yes." He gently put Lily back on the ground and picked up the bag. "I bought a little something for Lily. I hope you don't mind." Before Avery could answer, Michael had already taken the doll out of the bag and knelt in front of Lily. "This is for you." Lily looked at the doll with wide eyes. For a second, she was completely still, as if she couldn't believe it was real, that it was for her. Then, slowly, she held out her hands and took the doll with all the care in the world. "For me." Her voice came out in a whisper. "For you." Michael smiled. "Do you like it?" Lily didn't answer with words. She hugged the doll so tightly, with so much love, as if it were the most valuable thing in the universe. She buried her little face in the doll's hair and stayed that way, just feeling, just soaking up the moment. Avery put her hand to her mouth, her eyes already shining with tears she was trying to hold back. "Michael," she started, her voice choked. "Wait." He held up his hand, smiling. "There's one more thing." He took the headband out of the bag and showed it to Lily, who had already lifted her head and was looking with curiosity. "This here is magic. Want to see?" Lily nodded, speechless with emotion. Michael delicately placed the headband on her head, adjusting it in her blonde hair, and pressed the little button. The lights came on, small, delicate, shining softly around her head like a crown of stars. Lily's eyes widened even more. She reached up and touched the headband, feeling the lights, touching them carefully, as if she might break the magic. Then she looked at Michael, then at her mother, and suddenly started spinning. She spun and spun in the middle of the park, the doll in one arm, the headband glowing on her head, laughing loudly, free, completely happy. "I'm a Christmas princess," she shouted to the sky, to the whole world. "I'm a princess." Michael stood there, just watching, and felt something stir within him, something deep, something he had forgotten how to feel. Pure joy from seeing someone happy, joy that had nothing to do with money or success or achievements, just the simple joy of making a child smile. When he looked at Avery, he saw that she was crying. It wasn't a cry of sadness. It was one of those cries that come when the emotion is too big to fit inside your chest. She wiped her eyes quickly, a little embarrassed, trying to compose herself. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly, her voice breaking. Michael took a step closer, his tone sincere. "I wanted to. Seeing her smile like that, it does me good, it does me a lot of good." Avery looked at him, and something passed between the two of them. Something that didn't need to be said out loud. An understanding. A connection that went beyond words. "Thank you." That was all she could manage to say, but the way she said it carried much more than gratitude. Lily ran back, her eyes shining as brightly as the lights on the headband. "Mommy, Mr. Mike, did you see? I'm a princess." "We saw, my love." Avery crouched down and hugged her daughter tightly, the most beautiful princess of all. "Should we go for a walk?" Michael suggested, pointing toward the city center where the decorations continued. "There are more lights down Main Street." Lily jumped with joy. "Let's go, let's go." The three of them started walking together. Lily naturally went to the middle, letting go of the doll for a second to hold both of their hands, one small hand in Avery's, the other in Michael's. The three of them walking slowly through the park toward the center. Michael looked down at that little hand holding his with confidence and felt his chest tighten again. Emma, his daughter, used to do that when she was younger, before everything got complicated. She held his hand exactly that way. "Look at that giant Santa Claus," Lily pointed excitedly. "It really is huge," Avery laughed. "And over there, look at that nativity scene." Michael pointed in the other direction. They kept pointing out decorations, laughing at silly things, making simple comments about the lights, the cold, about how beautiful everything looked. Nothing profound, nothing complex, just light, easy, comfortable conversation. But there was something there, something in the way they walked together, in the synchronized rhythm of their steps, in the way Lily swung her arms, holding both their hands. To anyone looking from the outside, from a distance, they looked exactly like what they were in that moment. A family, a dad, a mom, a daughter taking a walk on a winter night. And perhaps, in some silent and yet unspoken way, that's what they were becoming. Or at least that's what was starting to blossom there, between the Christmas lights and the genuine smiles. They walked for a while longer, until Lily started to yawn. Avery looked at the time and sighed. "We need to go, it's late." "Wait." Michael hesitated, then asked, "Have you eaten yet?" Avery and Lily exchanged a look. Avery bit her lip. "Not yet. There's a little diner nearby." He pointed to the next street. "Can I treat you? Nothing fancy, just a quick bite." Avery was going to refuse. He saw it in her eyes. But Lily tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Please, Mommy." Avery looked at her daughter, then at Michael, and finally gave in with a small smile. "Okay, but let me at least pay for my part. We'll sort that out later." Michael smiled and started walking. Come on. The diner was small and cozy, dark wood tables, simple chairs, a pleasant smell of French fries in the air. There weren't many people at that hour, which made the atmosphere calmer. They sat at a table in the corner. Lily sat her doll beside her and kept the headband on her head. She kept fiddling with the lights, making them turn on and off, enchanted. They ordered simple hamburgers, French fries, and soda. While they waited, Lily played with the doll, making different voices, creating little stories. Michael kept fidgeting with his paper napkin, nervous. Avery noticed. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly. He took a deep breath. "It's just that there's something I want to tell you about myself." Avery stayed quiet, waiting. "I have a daughter." He started slowly. "Emma, she's 5 years old, the same age as Lily." "You mentioned that." Avery nodded gently. "Yes, but she lives in another state, with her mother and her stepfather." He looked at his own hands. "I got divorced about 2 years ago. It was complicated, full of fights, bad things being said, and in the end her mother got custody and moved away, took Emma far away." His voice was heavy. "I see her sometimes, holidays, a few weeks in the summer, but it's not the same. Every time I talk to her, I feel like I'm more distant, like I'm stopping being her dad and becoming just an acquaintance who calls once in a while." Avery reached her hand across the table and lightly touched his. "I'm so sorry. That must be so hard." "It is." He looked into her eyes. "And I feel very alone because of it, very empty, like I failed at the most important thing in my life." "You didn't fail," Avery said firmly. "I can tell you're a good dad, by the way you look at Lily, the way you talk about Emma. You truly care, and that matters." Michael felt his throat tighten. "Thank you." He squeezed her hand back. "What about you? It must be hard too, doing everything alone." "It is," she sighed. "But I understand what it is to feel alone while trying to do your best, trying to be strong when you're broken inside." They were silent for a moment, their hands still touching across the table. The food arrived, breaking the moment. Lily attacked the French fries with gusto, laughing and making her doll eat too. Michael took a deep breath and said, softer, only for Avery to hear, "These days with you and Lily, they've been very good for me. I feel less empty, like I found something I didn't even know I was looking for." Avery was speechless for a second. Then she smiled, that shy but genuine smile. "Me too. We feel less alone when you're around," Lily interrupted, pulling them both into her game with the doll. She made funny voices, invented names, created an entire story. Michael and Avery participated, laughing, entering the child's fantasy. And while that was happening, Avery realized something important. Michael wasn't just there to help. It wasn't charity. It wasn't pity. He was also being healed by that togetherness. He was filling a void that was inside him. He was finding something that money had never been able to buy. And she, in a way she didn't fully understand yet, was also being healed. They were saving each other mutually. One step at a time. One night at a time. One smile at a time. Avery woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of soft crying coming from the next room. She got up quickly, her heart already racing with that mother's instinct that knows when something is wrong. She ran to Lily's little room and turned on the light. The girl was huddled in bed, her face red, her eyes shining with tears. "Mommy, I'm cold." Avery quickly approached and touched her daughter's forehead. It was burning up. "Oh my God, Lily." She picked the girl up and carried her to the kitchen, her hands trembling as she rummaged for the thermometer in the drawer. When she finally found it and took her temperature, the number on the display made her freeze. 103 degrees Fahrenheit, 39.5 degrees C. "It's okay, my love, it's okay." Avery tried to keep her voice calm, but inside she was panicking. "Mommy will take care of you." She gave her fever medicine, placed a cold compress on Lily's forehead, and covered her with the blanket. But the girl kept trembling, complaining she was cold, crying softly. Avery sat there on the edge of the bed, holding her daughter's small, hot hand, trying not to break down. She didn't know if it was just a common fever or something more serious. She didn't know if she should wait until morning or rush to the emergency room now. She didn't have a car. She didn't have money for a taxi. She had no one to call. She was completely alone. She stayed like that for almost an hour, watching Lily sleep restlessly, her breathing heavy, her forehead still too hot. The panic grew inside her, tightening her chest, cutting off her breath. And then she thought of him, Michael. She hesitated. She didn't want to bother him. She didn't want to seem like she was taking advantage. She didn't want to be a burden. But she looked at her daughter, so small, so fragile, and the fear was greater than her pride. She picked up her cell phone with trembling hands and looked up his number. He had given it to her a few days ago, just in case, he had said. She typed the message, deleted it, typed it again. Michael, I'm sorry to bother you this late. Lily has a very high fever and I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry. I don't know what else to do. She sent it before she could regret it. She stared at the phone, her heart pounding. Maybe he was asleep. Maybe he wouldn't answer until morning. Maybe he would think it was strange for her to text him in the middle of the night. The phone vibrated less than 30 seconds later. I'm on my way. Send me the address. Avery felt tears fill her eyes. She sent the address with shaky fingers and waited, still holding Lily's hand. It didn't take even 15 minutes. The doorbell rang softly. Avery ran to the door and opened it. Michael was there, his hair a little messy, wearing jeans and a simple sweatshirt, as if he had rushed out of the house. His eyes went straight to her, full of worry. Where is she? In her room. Avery stepped aside to let him in, her voice weak. She has a fever of almost 104. Michael quickly walked in, crossing the small, simple apartment until he reached the little room. Lily was awake now, crying softly, calling for her mother. He knelt beside the bed and gently touched her forehead. It was truly very hot. Hi, Princess. He spoke softly, calmly. Not feeling well, huh? Lily shook her head, her little eyes full of tears. It hurts everywhere. I know, but we're going to take care of you now, okay? He looked at Avery. Let's take her to the clinic. There's a good one that's open all night. I don't have, Avery began, but Michael raised his hand. Don't worry about that now. Let's go. He picked Lily up with all the care in the world, wrapping her in the blanket. The girl leaned her head on his shoulder, still trembling. Avery quickly grabbed her purse, put on her untied sneakers, and followed the two. Michael's car was parked in front of the building. He settled Lily in the back seat. Avery got in next to her and held her daughter in her lap. Michael got in the front and drove off fast but carefully. It's going to be okay, he said, looking in the rearview mirror. This clinic is great. They'll take good care of her. Avery could only nod, her throat too tight to speak. The clinic was modern, clean, brightly lit. Nothing like the public health centers where Avery usually took Lily. Michael walked in holding the girl, went straight to the reception, and spoke firmly but politely. The girl has a very high fever. She needs to be seen right away. The receptionist grabbed a form and started asking questions. Michael answered what he knew, looking at Avery when he needed to confirm something. When it came to payment, he simply handed over a card without even asking the amount. Avery saw it, wanted to protest, but didn't have the strength. Not now. She just wanted someone to look at her daughter. It didn't take long for them to be called. A young female doctor in a white coat led Lily to a small room. Avery went with her, and Michael waited at the door watching. The doctor examined her carefully, asked questions, and took her temperature again. Then she smiled at Avery, reassuringly. It's a virus. Very common this time of year. The fever is high, but it's nothing serious. I'll prescribe a stronger fever reducer and she'll be better in a few days. Plenty of fluids and rest, and the right doses of medicine. Avery let out the breath she had been holding, her legs almost giving way from relief. Are you sure? It's not serious. I'm sure. The doctor touched her shoulder. She's going to be fine. When they left the room with the prescription in hand, Michael was waiting in the waiting area. He stood up as soon as he saw the two. Well? A virus? Avery managed to smile for the first time. Nothing serious. Just needs medicine and rest. Michael closed his eyes for a second, as if he too had been holding his breath. That's good. What a relief. They went to the clinic's own pharmacy. Michael got the medication, paid for everything, and didn't let Avery even see the price. She tried to protest again, but he just shook his head. "We'll talk about this later. Now let's get you two home." In the car, Lily was calmer, the medicine starting to take effect. She slept leaning against her mother the whole ride. When they arrived at the building, Michael helped carry Lily up to the apartment. He gently placed the girl in bed, covered her, and adjusted the pillow. Avery stood at the bedroom door, just watching. Then they went to the small living room. Avery sat down on the old sofa, her legs finally giving way. Michael sat beside her. "Thank you," she said softly. Her voice choked. "You have no idea how much I was desperate. I didn't know what to do. Her voice failed and the tears came. All the tears she had held back all night. Fear, desperation, loneliness, relief, all together. Michael pulled her into a hug without thinking twice. Avery rested her head on his shoulder and cried, finally letting out everything she had held in. "It's okay." He spoke softly, his hand rubbing her back in a comforting gesture. "She's fine now. Everything will be okay." They stayed like that for a few minutes. When Avery finally pulled away, she wiped her face with her hands, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, You don't need to apologize." Michael held her hand. "I understand. You're a mother. You were scared. It's normal." Avery looked at him. At that man who had dropped everything in the middle of the night, who had driven all the way there without a second thought, who had paid for everything without asking for anything in return, who had stayed there, in the waiting room, holding her hand, saying everything would be okay, who had stayed during the worst moment. Not just the good ones. "Thank you," she repeated, but this time the word carried a different weight. "For being here, for being you." Michael squeezed her hand back. "I'll always be here, whenever you need me." And she believed him. For the first time in a long time, Avery had someone she could trust, someone who wouldn't disappear, someone who would stay. Her safe haven. And that changed everything. The following weeks changed everything. Michael became a part of their routine so naturally that it felt like he had always been there. It wasn't intrusive. It wasn't forced. It was simply present. Sometimes, he would show up in front of the store at the end of Avery's shift, leaning against his car, hands in his pockets, waiting. Lily always saw him first and ran out, shouting "Mr. Mike" with that contagious joy. He would pick her up, spin her around, and then greet Avery with that calm smile she was starting to expect to see. Other times, on cold late afternoons, he would take Lily for hot chocolate at a small cafe near the park. The girl would sit in the high chair, her little feet swinging, and talk non-stop while Michael listened to every word, as if it were the most important thing in the world. And there were the days when he would simply show up at the apartment with a paper bag in his hands, the smell of homemade soup wafting out. "I thought you two might be tired," he would say, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, and it was. It was becoming normal. Avery tried to resist at first. She tried to maintain that safe distance, that independence she had built with so much effort. But little by little, without quite noticing when or how, she started to give in. It was one of those nights, after they had dinner with the soup Michael had brought, that Avery finally started to open up for real. Lily was in her room, drawing, and the two of them sat in the small living room. Michael had asked something simple about what it was like raising Lily alone from the beginning, and suddenly the words began to pour out. "I found out I was pregnant when I was 23. Avery spoke softly, looking at the cup of tea in her hands. "It wasn't planned. I was with a guy, thought it was serious, that it had a future." Michael just listened, without interrupting. When I told him, she gave a humorless laugh. He looked at me like I'd ruined his life, said he was too young, that he had plans, that he wasn't ready, and the next day he disappeared, blocked my number, moved out of the city. I never saw him again. Her voice was calm, but Michael could still hear the old pain. "Lily doesn't even know he exists," Avery continued. "I never told her. I always said it was just me and her, that we were a team, and we are. But sometimes I get scared." "Scared of what?" Michael asked gently. Of depending on someone. She looked at him. Of letting someone in and having that person disappear too. Of letting Lily get attached and then having her heart broken. I survive alone because I know I can count on myself. But with other people, I don't know. Michael was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he leaned forward slightly. I understand that fear, more than you imagine. It was his turn to open up. My marriage ended 2 years ago. He began slowly. It wasn't sudden. It wore down little by little. Fights, silences, resentment. And in the middle of it all was Emma. Little, trying to understand why her parents were yelling so much. He ran his hand through his hair, tense. When we finally separated, I thought it would be better, that at least the fights would stop. But my ex, she wanted distance, not just from me, but from the city, from everything. She got a job in another state, took Emma, and suddenly I became a visitor in my own daughter's life. His voice wavered slightly. I pay child support, send presents, call whenever I can, but it's not the same. I miss her days. I miss the nights, the bedtime talks, the drawings on the fridge, everything, and the guilt. He looked at his own hands. The guilt eats me alive. I feel like I failed as a father, that I wasn't strong enough to keep my family together. Avery reached out and touched his hand. You didn't fail. Sometimes things just don't work out, and that's not your fault. I know that here. He touched his head. But here, he touched his chest. Here I can't quite believe it. They were silent for a moment, their hands still touching, sharing that mutual pain of two people who had been hurt in different but equally profound ways. Meanwhile, in her room, Lily was drawing. She had started drawing Michael more and more often. In her school notebooks, on loose papers at home, on any paper she could find. Always him together with her and her mother, always the three of them. At school, when the teacher asked about her family, Lily spoke about Mr. Mike with sparkling eyes. He takes me for hot chocolate, she said proudly. He gave me a doll and a princess headband. And Michael felt it. He felt that affection growing inside him every time he saw the girl. It wasn't just sympathy or pity. It was something deeper, more visceral. It was that protective instinct, that desire to make her smile, to ensure nothing bad happened to her. It was paternal love, real, true. One afternoon, Michael was sitting on the sofa in their apartment when Lily approached him slowly, holding a folded piece of paper against her chest. Mr. Mike, she said softly, almost shyly. Hi, Princess. Are you okay? I made something for you. She held out the paper, proud but also nervous. Do you like it? Michael took the paper carefully and unfolded it slowly. The drawing was simple, made with crayons, but there was something in it that made Michael's heart stop for a second. 3 figures. A small one in the middle, yellow hair representing blonde, one on the side with brown hair and a simple dress, and one on the other side, taller, in pants and a shirt. Lily, Avery, him. The 3 were holding hands. Behind them, a large Christmas tree full of colorful ornaments. Below, in crooked, careful letters, was written, My family. Michael stared at the drawing, speechless. He felt his throat tighten, his eyes sting. Lily stood in front of him, waiting for his reaction, her little fingers nervously intertwined. Did you like it? He looked at her, that little blonde girl with light blue eyes, and something inside him broke and mended at the same time. I love it. His voice was hoarse. It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever seen. Lily smiled radiantly. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, she climbed onto the sofa next to him and rested her head on his arm. Mr. Mike, she said softly, looking up. You could be my dad too. The world stopped. Avery, who was in the kitchen washing dishes, froze. The water continued running in the sink, but she couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly. Michael was completely still, the drawing still in his hand, looking at the girl who had just said that with such purity, such innocence, such truth. Lily, he began, but his voice failed. I never had a dad. She continued with that brutal honesty children have. "Mommy says we're a team, just the two of us, and we are, but it would be nice to have a dad too. And you're so nice. You make me laugh, and you bring soup, and you take me for hot chocolate, and I like you a lot." Michael felt tears well up in his eyes. He couldn't hold them back. "I like you a lot too, Lily," he managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. Lily smiled, satisfied with the answer, and returned her attention to the drawing. She started explaining every detail, every color chosen, completely oblivious to the impact her words had caused. Avery turned off the faucet with trembling hands. She dried her hands on a cloth and walked slowly to the living room. Lily saw her mother and jumped off the sofa. "Mommy, Mr. Mike loved my drawing. I'm going to make another one now." And she ran off to her room. Only the two of them remained. Avery sat on the sofa, her legs shaky. Michael still held the drawing, his eyes red. "I'm sorry," Avery said softly. She doesn't know what she's saying." "She does." Michael looked at her. "Kids always know." Avery took a deep breath, her own tears threatening to fall. She never had a present father. Never. Her biological dad disappeared before she was even born. "I always tried to be enough, you know. Always tried to be both mom and dad at the same time. But I knew that someday this day would come, the day she would miss having one, the day she would ask, would want one. And I was so afraid of that." Her voice broke. Michael dropped the drawing onto the sofa and took her hands. "I feel like a failure as a dad with Emma," he confessed. "I thought there was no more room in my life for that role, that I had lost my chance. But hearing that from Lily," he looked toward the room where the girl was, "hearing that from her made something inside me change." "What?" Avery asked softly. "It made me realize that maybe I can be a good father again. That maybe I haven't lost everything." He squeezed her hands. "And it made me realize that I don't want to be without you two anymore." Avery was speechless. She looked at him, at the man who had appeared out of nowhere on a Christmas Eve and had turned their lives upside down in the best possible way. Before either of them could say anything else, Lily came running back with another drawing. "Look at this one now, it has us at the park." They both smiled, discreetly wiping their eyes, and pulled the girl to sit between them. They looked at the new drawing, complimented it, listened to her excited explanations. Later, when Michael finally left, he put the first drawing in his wallet. He carefully took it out, folded it neatly, and placed it right next to Emma's photo. Two girls, two loves. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel empty. He felt complete. He knew now, with absolute certainty, that they weren't just dear people or friends. He loved that girl. And he loved that woman too, even if he hadn't said it out loud yet, even if he didn't know exactly how it would all work out. He knew, and that changed everything. Michael was leaning against his car, in front of the store, waiting. It had become routine. 3 or 4 times a week he would show up at the end of her shift, not always, because he didn't want to be invasive, but enough that Lily already expected to see his car when she left, and that day was no different. When Avery walked through the store door with Lily by the hand, the girl scanned the parking lot with her eyes and saw him instantly. "Mr. Mike!" She let go of her mother's hand and ran, her little backpack bouncing on her back, the lighted headband still on her head, because she insisted on wearing it every day. Michael knelt down and opened his arms, catching her in mid-air when she threw herself into him. "Hi, Princess." He spun her around, making her laugh loudly. "How was school today?" "It was great. I got an A on my drawing. The teacher said I draw very well." "Of course you do. You're the best artist I know." Avery approached more slowly, but she was smiling. A genuine smile, one that reached her eyes. Michael noticed. He noticed everything about her now. "Hi," she greeted, still a little shy. "Hi," he replied, setting Lily back down on the ground. "I thought I'd keep you company on the walk home, if you don't mind." "We never mind," Avery said softly. The three of them started walking together along the sidewalk, Lily in the middle, as always, holding both their hands. She skipped occasionally, talked non-stop about school, about her classmates, about the homework she had. Michael listened to every word, but he was also conscious of Avery's presence beside him, the way she relaxed when he was near, the way she smiled more easily, the way the lines of worry on her face faded a little. After a while, Lily saw a dog on the other sidewalk and asked to go see it up close. Avery let her pass but stayed watching from where she was. The two of them stood there side by side. Michael took a deep breath. He knew he had to say it. He needed to let out what he had been feeling for days. "Avery," he began, looking at her, "I need to tell you something." She turned her face to him, a little tense. "What is it?" He chose his words carefully. "I lived for a long time believing my family story was over, that after the divorce and after losing Emma the way I did, I wouldn't have this in my life anymore, that it was just work, loneliness, sporadic visits, and I had accepted that, I had resigned myself to it." Avery listened quietly, her eyes fixed on him. "But you two—" He looked at Lily, who was crouched down petting the dog. "You two have shown me that maybe my family story wasn't over. Maybe it was just waiting to start over." His voice was thick with emotion, with truth. Avery felt her eyes fill with tears. She blinked quickly, trying to hold them back. "Michael, You don't have to say anything right now." He lightly touched her arm. "I just wanted you to know that you and Lily, you changed everything for me." Avery quickly wiped the corner of her eye, smiling even through the tears. "I feel scared," she confessed softly. "Very scared. Of getting hurt, of hurting her, of letting you in completely, and then you deciding you don't want this anymore." "I won't decide that," Michael said firmly. "I'm sure of it." She looked at him, really looked, and saw the sincerity there. She saw that he was telling the truth. "When you're around," she admitted, her voice trembling, "I feel peace. I feel less alone, less tired, like I don't have to carry everything by myself all the time." Michael smiled, that gentle smile she already knew so well. "You don't have to—" "Not anymore." Lily ran back, interrupting the moment. "The dog was so cute, he licked my hand." "That's great," Michael smiled at her. "By the way, I have something for you." "For me?" Her eyes lit up. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small keychain. It was simple, silver metal, with the letter L in relief, decorated with small blue stones that sparkled in the light. "This is for you." Lily took the keychain with both hands, as if it was something extremely valuable. She looked at the letter, her eyes widening. "It's the letter of my name," she shouted, jumping up and down. "It's my name, Mommy. Look." Avery looked at the keychain, then at Michael. That small gesture, so simple yet so full of care. He had thought of her. He had chosen it with affection. He had paid attention to the details, and something stirred inside Avery. Something deep, something she had kept very well hidden for years. She was falling in love with him. Maybe she had already been in love for a long time, and was only now allowing herself to feel it. "Thank you, Mr. Mike." Lily hugged his leg tightly. "I'm going to put it on my backpack, then it will go everywhere with me." "I'm glad you like it, Princess." They continued walking. Lily was ahead now, admiring the keychain, talking to herself about where she would hang it. Avery and Michael walked side by side, closer than before, their shoulders almost touching. "Thank you," she said softly, "for the gestures, for everything. You don't have to thank me." When they arrived at Avery's building, Michael said goodbye with a hug for Lily and a lingering handshake for Avery. He walked back to his car, got in, but didn't start it immediately. He sat there, his hands on the steering wheel, watching the two of them climb the building stairs. Lily was still waving at him through the window, and it was there, in that quiet moment, alone in the car, that Michael finally admitted it to himself. He wanted this. He wanted a family with Avery and Lily. He wanted to wake up in the morning and have coffee with the two of them. He wanted to help Lily with her homework. He wanted to be there on the good days and the bad days. He wanted to be a real dad again. And he knew that for this to truly happen, for it to become real, he needed to take the next step. He needed to bring Emma into it. He needed the two girls to meet, to accept each other, to become sisters. It seemed scary, it seemed complicated, but it also felt right, more right than anything he had felt in years. He picked up his phone and looked at Emma's photo on the lock screen. That blonde little face, those blue eyes, that gap-toothed smile. "Soon you'll meet them," he murmured softly, as if his daughter could hear him. "And you'll love them, I know you will." He put the phone away, started the car and drove off. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't driving home feeling empty. He was driving home planning a future that included 4 people: him, Avery, Lily, and Emma. A family. Different, blended, perhaps even a little strange by normal standards. But a real family, and that was everything he wanted. Michael packed his bags on a Friday afternoon. The trip to see Emma had been scheduled for weeks. It was his weekend with his daughter, one of the few he had during the year. Normally, he would be excited but also anxious, with that mix of anticipation and fear that the distance had grown even further. But this time was different. This time he had something to tell her, something important. He grabbed his wallet before leaving and checked if the drawing was still there. It was, carefully folded, right next to Emma's photo. 3 figures holding hands in front of a Christmas tree. He took a deep breath and left. The plane ride was smooth. When he arrived at his ex-wife's house, Emma was already waiting on the porch. The second she saw him, she ran. "Daddy!" Michael bent down and picked her up, hugging her tightly, smelling her hair, feeling how much she had grown since the last time. "Hi, Princess." He held her close. "Wow, you've grown so much." "I'm a giant now," Emma replied, proud. His ex-wife appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed. They exchanged cold, quick greetings. Michael grabbed Emma's small backpack and they left for the hotel where he was staying. They spent the day together. They went to the park, ate pizza, watched a children's movie at the cinema. Emma talked non-stop, telling him about school, about her new friends, about the dog her stepfather had bought. Michael listened to everything, participated, laughed. But he was also waiting for the right moment. It was in the late afternoon, when they were sitting in a small park eating ice cream, that he finally gathered the courage. "Emma, can I show you something?" "Of course, Daddy." He took his wallet from his pocket, opened it carefully, and took out the drawing. He unfolded it and showed it to her. Emma looked at it curiously, her little ice cream spoon paused in the air. "What is it?" "It's a drawing a little girl named Lily made," Michael explained slowly. "She's your age, 5 years old." "She draws well," Emma commented, studying the 3 figures. "Is that you?" "It is," Michael smiled. "That's me. That's her mom, Avery, and this is Lily." Emma looked closer, then lifted her blue eyes to him. "Are they your friends?" Michael hesitated, choosing his words. "They are very special friends." He took a deep breath. "I met them at Christmas, and since then they've been very important to me. They keep me company. They make me laugh. They make me feel less alone." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing with that seriousness children sometimes have. "She's my age." "She is. Exactly your age." "And is she nice?" Michael smiled. "Very nice. She loves to draw, just like you. And she loves hot chocolate too." Emma smiled, returning her attention to the ice cream for a second. Then she asked, looking back at the drawing, "Is she good?" "Very good." Emma looked thoughtful. Michael waited, his heart beating fast, unsure of her reaction. Finally, Emma looked at him and said with all the simplicity in the world, "I want to meet her, Daddy." Michael felt his chest tighten with relief and emotion. "Really? Really?" Emma nodded excitedly. "If she's my age, we can play together. I can show her my toys." Michael pulled his daughter into a tight hug, kissing the top of her blonde head. "You would really like her, Emma, very much." "Then let's plan it." Emma was already excited. "When can I meet her?" "Soon. Very soon." And he knew it was true. 2 weeks later, Emma was in Boston. It was one of the scheduled visits. A long weekend he was entitled to. He picked her up at the airport, his heart pounding with nervousness and anticipation. He had talked to Avery a few days earlier, explained everything. asked if she thought it was a good idea. Avery had been nervous, but also hopeful. "If this is important to you, then it's important to me too," she had said. They agreed to meet at the park, the same park where everything had begun. Michael arrived with Emma by the hand. The girl was excited but also a little shy. She held her favorite teddy bear tightly to her chest. Avery was already there, sitting on a bench with Lily beside her. When they saw Michael approaching, the two of them stood up. Lily saw Emma and stopped. Emma saw Lily and also stopped. The two girls looked at each other for a long second. Two little blondes with light blue eyes, the same height, the same age, staring at each other with that natural curiosity children have. Michael held his breath. Avery did too. Then Lily took a step forward. "Hi, I'm Lily." Emma gave a shy half smile. "Hi, I'm Emma." "You're Mr. Mike's daughter." "I am." Emma nodded. "Are you the girl who draws?" "I am." Lily smiled. "So do you want to see my drawings?" "I do." And just like that, simple as only children can be, Lily took Emma by the hand and pulled her toward the swings in the playground. Michael and Avery stood still, watching the two of them run off hand in hand. "That was," Avery began but couldn't finish. "Unbelievable," Michael completed, his voice emotional. They walked to the bench and sat side by side, watching. The two girls were already on the swings, swinging and laughing. Lily showed her lighted headband to Emma. Emma showed her teddy bear to Lily. "Look," Lily shouted. "I can go really high." "Me too," Emma replied, swinging harder. They got off the swings and went to the slide. Lily went up first. Emma waited below. Then they switched, sharing space, sharing toys, sharing laughter. There was no jealousy, no competition, no awkwardness. There was connection, immediate and natural. Michael felt his eyes well up with tears. Avery noticed and touched his hand. "They hit it off. Better than I could have imagined." He squeezed her hand back. They stayed there, watching for a long time. The girls played non-stop, inventing games, creating stories, laughing loudly. At some point, Lily brought Emma over to where they were. "Mommy, Emma is so nice. She likes the same things as me." "Daddy, Lily showed me the drawing she made. It's very pretty," Emma added excitedly. The two girls looked at each other and giggled, then ran off again. Michael looked at Avery. She looked at him, and something passed between the two of them, something that didn't need to be said. This could work. This was working. "Thank you," Michael said softly, "for accepting this, for accepting her." "She's your daughter," Avery replied simply. "And she's lovely. It's easy to accept." He smiled, his heart lighter than it had been in years. They stayed in the park until the sun began to set. The girls didn't want to leave. "Just 5 more minutes," they begged constantly. When they finally left, they decided to all go for hot chocolate at the cafe Lily loved. The girls sat together at a table, sharing a piece of cake, talking non-stop. Michael and Avery sat across from them, just watching. "You know what I realized," Michael said softly. "What?" "That I don't have to divide my love." He looked at the two girls. "I can add to it. I love Emma with everything I have, and I can love Lily too. It's not one taking from the other. It's one adding to the other." Avery felt her eyes sting. "You are a true father, Michael," she said sincerely. "That is very clear. And she hesitated. "I think you might be the man in their lives too, both of them." Michael looked at her, surprised and moved. "What about yours?" he asked softly, bravely. Avery smiled, that shy but genuine smile. "Maybe you already are." They didn't say anything else. They just sat there together, watching the two girls laugh and connect as if they had been friends their whole lives. And Michael knew, with absolute certainty, that he was on the right path. It wasn't going to be easy. There would be challenges, adjustments, difficult conversations, but it would be worth it. Because there, in that simple cafe with two blonde girls laughing loudly and a woman by his side who made his heart beat differently, he saw the future. And it was a future he wanted, a future worth fighting for, a future that was, finally, a real family. A week after the girls met, Michael asked to talk to Avery. It was a quiet night. Lily and Emma were in the room playing, their laughter echoing through the small apartment. Michael and Avery sat on the living room sofa, facing each other. He was nervous. She could tell. "What is it?" Avery asked, her heart already racing. Michael took a deep breath and took her hands. "I want to be fully in your lives," he said directly, without beating around the bush. "I don't want to be just visits anymore. I don't want to be the guy who shows up once in a while. I want a home, a real one." Avery felt her breath catch. "Michael, I want you to move in with me," he continued, his voice firm but full of emotion. "You and Lily. I want to wake up in the morning and see you two. I want to make breakfast together. I want to help with homework. I want to be present on the good days and the bad days. I want to be a real family." Tears immediately filled Avery's eyes. I don't know." Fear hit hard. Fear of depending on someone. Fear of getting hurt. Fear that this would be temporary, that he would change his mind, that everything would fall apart and she would be worse off than before. "I know you're scared," Michael said softly, squeezing her hands. "I am too. But look at us. Look at how well the girls got along. Look at how I feel when I'm with you. This isn't temporary. This is real." Avery looked into his eyes and saw truth there. She saw love. She saw certainty. And she thought about the way he loved Lily, the way Emma had fit perfectly into their lives, the peace she felt when he was around, the way, for the first time in years, she didn't feel completely alone. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling, her heart pounding. "Okay, we accept." Michael pulled her into a tight hug, burying his face in her hair. "Thank you. Thank you for trusting me," and she cried there on his shoulder. But it was a cry of relief, of happiness, of finally allowing herself to believe that things could work out. The move happened quickly. Avery and Lily didn't have much. Some clothes, some toys, a few books. Everything fit into a few boxes, their whole life in a few simple packages. Emma was visiting that week, and she insisted on helping to choose every detail of Lily's room in her dad's house. "The bed goes here. No, there. No, here is better." The two girls laughed, pushing imaginary furniture, creating the perfect space. Michael watched everything with a smile on his face that he couldn't wipe off. His house, which had been so large and so silent for so long, began to change. Suddenly there were toys scattered on the living room floor. There were crayons forgotten on the dining table. There was laughter echoing through the hallways. There was life. And it was exactly what he had always wanted without knowing it. Christmas came again. A whole year had passed since that night in the diner, since that mother counting coins, and that solitary man who decided to do something about it. It was Christmas Eve, and the four of them were in the living room decorating the tree. Lily and Emma, side by side, placed ornaments on the lower branches. They debated where each ball should go, whether the cloth Santa went here or there, laughing when they disagreed. "No, Emma, the gold one looks better on this side. But I think the red one matches more. Then let's put both." Michael watched the two of them, his heart overflowing. Avery was beside him, leaning against him, smiling. "Done, now just the star," Lily announced, looking up at the top of the tree. "I'll get it." Emma ran off. She returned with the golden star in her hands. Michael bent down. "Shall we put it on together?" "Together," the two of them said in unison. He lifted one on each side, holding them carefully, and the three hands together placed the star on top. When they let go, the star shone under the lights. Perfect. The girls clapped, excited. Michael placed them back on the floor, and they ran off to look at the tree from another angle. Avery stood there, watching everything, her eyes full of tears. Lily ran back and hugged her mother's legs. "This is our home now, right, Mommy?" Avery knelt down, held her daughter's face in her hands, and looked at Michael. He was watching the two of them with that look full of love. "It is, my love," Avery replied, her voice choked. "It is our home." Emma approached and held her dad's hand, looking at him with those sparkling blue eyes. "Now we're a big family, right, Daddy?" Michael bent down, getting to the girl's height. He held both of them, pulled Avery close too, and smiled with eyes full of tears. "Yes," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "The family I always wanted, and didn't even know it." The four of them hugged there in the middle of the living room, with the Christmas tree shining behind them. The lights flickered softly. Outside, the snow began to fall, and inside that house, which had been so empty and so silent, there was now life. There was love. There was laughter. There was a future. Michael looked at each of them. At Emma, his daughter who could now visit any time. At Lily, who had stolen his heart from the first moment. At Avery, the woman who had changed everything, and he knew he had found exactly what he was looking for. A family, different, blended, born from an act of kindness on a cold Christmas night. But real, true, complete. And it was all he needed. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.